Hello and welcome to r/Am I the Bad Guy? A catharsis for the frustrated moral philosopher in all of us, and a place to finally find out if you were the wrong in an argument that's been bothering you. Our first dilemma comes from username WifeHund and JDN. Me and my wife fight over very few things. Food is the main culprit. My wife is a strong believer in breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack before bed, and that's it. I'm a firm believer in eat whenever you're hungry. This has always been a problem, but has never really been discussed. Recently, she's been getting overly angry about it, but I can't see what the problem is. I'm not going to make my kids go hungry because dinner is in an hour. If they're hungry, let them eat. She also complains that they won't finish their dinner if I let them eat before. Our kids have never in their lives left anything on their plates. Most days they finish theirs and steal half of mine. If this was causing problems at mealtimes, I'd get it. But in my eyes, she just wants to constrict when our kids eat. And as someone who grew up in a household like that, it effed me up pretty bad. It's even gotten to the point where I've come home from work to my second youngest, now 5, although it's been happening since he was 4, laying on the floor sobbing because he was hungry. I've spoken to our mutual friends, and they all seem to think that I don't get a say because she cooks and buys the food. Friends that are only mine seem to think, while she's being unfair, she's building character in the kids. I think she's going to wind up giving them eating disorders. Either way, I don't really have anyone on my side besides the kids themselves. So Reddit, am I the bad guy? P.S. Ages of kids just because I know someone's going to ask. 12 male, 10 female, 9 female, 7 male, 5 male, and 3 male. Now, for those of you who are not aware of how these posts work, the idea is that someone makes a post on the subreddit, just like the one we just read out, and basically asks for other people to give an input on who was the bad guy in the situation. So the possible results here are, you're the bad guy, you're not the bad guy, everyone sucks here, no one's the bad guy here, or not enough info. And for this specific instance, for this specific dilemma, I'm going to say that there's no bad guys here. I can personally see both sides of this argument. I think that this guy's wife should be applauded for not giving in to the kids just because they say they're hungry. Young kids say they're hungry all the time. I know how I was at that age. I've got younger sisters. I know how they are and were at that age. Kids will say they're hungry when in reality they just ate half an hour ago. Kids will always say they're hungry. I don't think his example of coming home from work and his second youngest lying on the floor crying because he was hungry, I don't think that is a good example or any sort of proof that he's being starved or anything of the sort. From what he told us in his post, they are still eating 3 meals a day. So they're definitely not being underfed, they're definitely not actually starving. I'm also of the opinion that I do think it is good to get children into a good routine, into a good habit for eating. You don't want people to just be eating willy-nilly, just eating bad things all day or overeating or undereating or anything like that. I think having 3 proper meals can be good for getting people into a routine and making sure kids know that they need to eat X, Y, and Z times. I think it's very beneficial for them growing up. However, I do also understand where the father here is coming from. I do understand the fact that if you're hungry, okay, you go eat. I get that, especially if it's just a little snack. I don't think that just because the wife buys the food and that she cooks means that she gets to decide when and where people eat sort of thing. I think that's a very silly reason for their mutual friends to be giving them. But overall, I do tend to side with the mother here in the argument. However, that doesn't mean that I think there is a bad guy here. As I said, I don't think there's a bad guy here. In fact, I think both of them are just trying to do what they think is best. Obviously, there needs to be some sort of solution here. The two parents need to work out what they're actually going to be doing for their kids, because right now there's clearly some sort of conflict here. Maybe there's a way they can compromise and meet in the middle. Maybe it's an idea to allow the kids to have snacks in between the meals, whether that just be a piece of fruit or some nuts or something that's just light, but also maybe not crap, like you don't want them sitting eating chocolate or something like that. So perhaps there can be a compromise made there. Our next dilemma comes from username throwaway999712. Last Saturday, our neighbours had a yard sale. There was a decent amount of people that stopped by, and they were fine parking in my neighbour's driveway. We live in a very busy street, so parking on the road is a nuisance as there's no shoulder and people tend to drive well over the 35 mph speed limit that is posted. To be clear, it is very obvious that this is our driveway on our property. We do not share an easement with the neighbours, so this person purposely pulled into our driveway because the neighbours was full from other people at their yard sale. The way he was parked completely blocked both of our cards in, so if we needed to get out, we couldn't. About an hour into the sale, we noticed a car pull into our driveway. I asked my husband if he was expecting anyone, and said that he wasn't, so he went outside to see what they wanted. He saw the driver, a passenger, and 2 children get out of the car and walk over to the neighbour's yard sale. My husband called out to the driver of the car and told him he can't park there and to move his car. He told my husband that he had nowhere to park and the kids were with him, and it was too dangerous to park on the street. My husband said he understood, but he needed to move the car out of our driveway. The man proceeded to argue with my husband until he finally told him to either move his car or we will have to call and have it towed. My husband came inside and asked me to call the non-emergency police line to see if someone could come out and ask the driver to move the car out of our driveway. An officer arrived within 10 minutes and my husband explained the situation to him. The other driver began ranting at the officer about not having a safe place to park, and the officer told him that it didn't matter, that he was on our property and he could either move the car or the officer would have to call to have him towed. The man started screaming curses at my husband and told him that if one of his kids got injured because he had to park on the road, he was going to sue us. My neighbours, the ones having the yard sale, came over and told us that we were the bad guys for making such a commotion over them being parked in our driveway. My husband explained that they were the ones having the yard sale, not us, and that he would never have allowed strangers to park in their driveway because it's rude. Now my neighbours are bad-mouthing us to all our other neighbours. Some agree that we were in the right, but the ones to the immediate right of us are now being cold to us and telling us that we are insensitive and had no sense of community. So, are we the bad guys, or should we have let it go and let the man park in our driveway? People keep asking why we called the police. We called them because the driver was becoming increasingly hostile and swearing. He threatened to sue us. We would most likely have let him stay if he had just asked first. The second he started cursing at my husband, he had to leave. We did not know him, did not know what he would do or what he was capable of, nor did we invite him. He was there for a neighbour's yard sale that had nothing to do with our property. My judgment here is simple, and it should be obvious, I think. These people are not the bad guys. The guy parking in their driveway is 100% the bad guy. Folks, you can't just drive to the location you want to drive to and then realise, wait a minute, there's no available parking here for me. You know what? I'm just going to go drive into this other person's driveway on their property, and I'm going to leave my car there. Forget about their cars that are inside the driveway already. Forget about what they want. Forget about if they need to go out somewhere. And forget about the fact that this is not my property. I'm just going to park there anyway. No. Folks, that person, if you're that person, you're the one who's in the wrong. You have no defense. It's completely indefensible to park in someone else's driveway without permission. Our next situation comes from Throwaway 33033. 37 male, been married to my wife for 3 months now. I have a 9-year-old son, Adam, with my late wife who passed away from cancer in 2016. I gotta say my son suffered a lot during and after his mother's death. It was an incredibly difficult phase, and he hasn't been able to go to school and talk to other kids. With therapy and time, he was able to get better, but he's still receiving education at home, therefore he doesn't have a lot of friends. But he formed a strong relationship with his stepbrothers, Jake, who's 11, and Aaron, who's 6. My wife divorced her ex and took full custody years ago. Adam is especially attached to his big brother Jake. They do everything together. Literally, there's no way they wouldn't see each other for a day. They tell each other everything. This bond they have makes me feel so grateful that my son is finally starting to be happy and have fun with other kids. I don't even believe how Adam used to be before meeting his stepbrothers. However, there's been an issue with my wife's family. They don't like having me and my son visit, and they'd either tell my wife to take Jake and Aaron over to their house, or ask to meet somewhere neither me nor my son are around. I tried mending the relationship with them, but they never accepted me as family. They'd even teach Jake and Aaron to call me with my first name, even though I have no problem with being called Dad. A few days ago, my wife told me her family wanted to take her and the kids to their cottage house for a few days as they gather and do this every year. I asked her if Adam was going too, and she told me that her family only wants her kids going, saying just family can come. My wife said it was just a few days and the kids will come back. Thing is, Jake and Aaron already told Adam they were going to the cottage house, and Adam wanted to go with them. After Adam started crying, my wife said she didn't want to tell me and wanted to apologise for not going, but she said the kids now want to go and that I should take Adam somewhere till the kids come back. I got mad that when she told me this, and we argued about how her family was being unreasonable and treating my son as a less. She said that they just wanted to have a private holiday with the kids and kept making excuses. She told me she'd talk to her family, but there's a slim chance they'll change their minds. I'm mad as she's still going without taking Adam, and she says I'm being selfish and unfair towards my stepkids, that I should let them go, but Adam is already asking me questions and seems pretty upset. I think my judgment here is probably what most people are also going to agree with, and it's the fact that this guy writing this post is 100% not the bad guy. There's a few bad guys here, but he's not one of them. The bad guys are his wife's parents, and also his wife. His wife is being horrible here. It is absolutely inexcusable not to invite this other child. Her parents are saying they only want family there. Well, this guy and his son have married into the family. They are now part of the family. So her parents, for one, are being horrible, horrible, horrible people. I can understand to an extent that the wife does not want to cause issues. She is kind of stuck in a hard place. She wants to keep a good relationship with her parents. She doesn't want to fall out with her parents. I can understand that completely. But at the same time, she also needs to maybe grow a pair. She needs to maybe have a conversation with her parents and say, hey, these people are now part of our family, and you need to treat them as such. Because currently this wife is letting her new stepson down. She is being absolutely horrible to her stepson and her husband by not growing a pair and speaking to her parents. And our final dilemma today, folks, comes from user Nin. I'm the president of the school's chess club, and we had a substitute teacher supervise as the normal teacher is sick right now. I was teaching some of the younger kids, and I reminded some of them that white goes first. The teacher asked me why, and I explained that's been the chess rules for the past 160 years or so. It was standardized in the international chess conferences. She starts saying how it's racist, and I explained how literally it has nothing to do with anyone's race. She kept telling me to let the kids let any piece go first, and that I shouldn't be putting racial connotations. I told my teacher that she's a dumb butt for making chess about race, and her for adding racial connotations. Thankfully, she stopped. I did, however, get called into the principal's office the next day, where he said my behaviour was uncalled for, and I owe the teacher an apology. I gave her a half-butt apology, which the principal reluctantly accepted. You know, this is actually quite a hard one to judge for me. I think that teacher was being absolutely ridiculous. I think she was being very silly, but I don't think she was being a bad guy. I think she genuinely maybe just believed that. I think she was maybe just genuinely stupid. However, you, on the other hand, were a bit out of line. I think it was a bit uncalled for you to call her a name like that. I agree with you. I think you were in the right of the argument prior to that point. I think she was being silly. I think it was preposterous that she was trying to make this about race. However, I do think you were the one being the bad guy there. You're the one who started with the name calling. So my judgment here is, you are the bad guy. So folks, that was r/AmITheA bad guy. Make sure to leave a like on this video, helps me out a lot. And if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also turn on that little notification bell, and that way you'll never miss any of my new uploads.